Okay, welcome everybody, those who are inside the classroom as well as those who are online to the Sunday Feast lecture. So for our Sunday Feast lecture today, we're going to talk about how to overcome disappointments. So I'm expecting this to be a participative class because I'm thinking that you must have been disappointed at some point in life, right or right? Okay, so bring it on then. Give me some examples and some situations where you felt that you were disappointed in life. And please use the microphones because we have an audience online. And if you don't speak into the microphone, then they don't hear it. Everything good with everybody? I'm the only one?
Hare Krishna, Shraddha Mataji. Yeah, I had many disappointments, but one thing I would like to share was, generally like in work, right, we spend a lot of time throughout the year, we work hard, but when it comes to year end where we are expecting something and then it doesn't turn out that way, then you get disappointed. So I had one such disappointment.
So you expect something and it didn't happen that way. Okay. Anybody else likes to volunteer?
When my boss promotes one of my colleague who doesn't perform very well, and same thing.
Yeah. I'm looking for specific examples. Yes, so that is good. Promotions. Anything else? By the way, I'm a vegetarian. So I don't eat people, so you can come closer to me. I kind of think like, that everybody's sitting at the back of the class.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So my disappointment was during my phase where I don't have a job to do. So during that period I was so distressed and I was like, oh, what I have to do now. So I think for everyone there is a phase where they feel so much disappointed in their life. But I think it's Krishna's mercy that we need to look over that and we need to move ahead. And that's then I realized that, okay, everything happens for our purification.
Very good. I'm glad you realized that. Thank you. Good, yeah. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So disappointments in my life, like at that point of time, they may look like disappointment, but after passing some time, if you look
so
back,
give me an example. Concrete example.
Like these are all job-related ones.
That's fine. That's fine. We spend actually a large part of our waking time in the job, so it's quite natural for you to have instances from there. Yeah.
Right.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Well, anybody ever ordered anything from Amazon.com? And something else showed up? Ever being disappointed in love? You can just nod. Because you are on Facebook. Yeah, so we all of us at some point in time have been disappointed in life, right? And so the Sanskrit term for disappointment is nirvedam. And it doesn't matter what phase of life we are, what status of life we are in. Majority of us have faced disappointment in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to talk about today from various disappointment scenarios as they are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So how many cantos are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? Onto the microphone. 12? Okay, yeah, correct. So there are 12 cantos in Srimad Bhagavatam, and out of the 12 cantos, 10 cantos have a mention of disappointment. How about that for statistics? Right? So it's a serious topic, and so I just picked up a few because we don't have all the time to talk about. So the disappointment and the mention of disappointment actually starts in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Right at the time when we are talking about the inception of Bhagavatam, how Bhagavatam came into being. So the time was that Kali Yuga is on the horizon, about to come, and the great sage Vyasadeva knows that people in Kali Yuga are going to have certain characteristics. They're going to be short-lived, they're going to be quarrelsome, they're going to be lazy, they're going to be unlucky, they're going to be misguided, and above all, they're going to be always disturbed. So given all these scenarios, he knew that people in Kali Yuga will not have the time or the inclination or the intelligence or the memory to study the Vedas in full, because Vedas run into millions of verses. And so he then started to, document that, because prior to that, the teacher used to speak and the student would listen and they would just remember everything that the teacher said, right? And so obviously he knew that because of the short memory of people in Kali Yuga, there was a need to document things. So he and Ganesha sat down and they documented everything. And then he said, okay, but still that's too much. People won't have so much of time to sit down and read all this. And then also he wanted to make sure that people, because Kali Yuga is coming, it's bad times, he wanted the people to have some sort of a relief in life, so that they could live a little happily in this material world. So he focused on some of the aspects of the Vedas while he was documenting it. And so he did all that and said, okay, fine, people won't have time to read all that, so let me do one thing. Let me prepare a summary, just as you have an executive summary for a big report. So he came up with what is known as the sutras, or aphorisms. So Vedanta sutras, he wrote all that. So after doing so much of work, right, writing all the Vedas, writing the summaries of the Vedas, then he said, okay, let me write also something specific to a certain section of society. Now in those days, Vedas were not accessible to everybody. Vedas could be read only by the Brahmanas. Okay? You had to be qualified, you had to be second initiated, and so on and so forth. So he said, but what about the women who were generally not educated in those times? What about women? What about those from the lower classes like Shudras? They won't be able to read the Vedas and understand, and what to talk about aphorisms, which are very cryptic. So he said, okay, let me write the same concept to them in a different way, in the manner of a nice story. So he documented the Mahabharata. And inside the Mahabharata, there is Bhagavad Gita also. Right? So there's a lot of documentation he did, but even after doing such a wonderful job, he did not feel happiness in his heart. On the contrary, he felt melancholy. He felt very, very disappointed from doing all that. Right? So while he was sitting there, pretty morose, then his spiritual master came to visit him. And so when he saw his spiritual master, who is none other than Narad Muni, then Shraddha Vyasadeva says in the first canto, 5th chapter, in the 5th number verse, and he said that, the spiritual master is a spiritual master. He knows what is going on in the mind of the disciple. Believe me, he does know. So when he came here and he saw that Vyasadeva was sitting pretty, with the head held down and things like that. So he just said that, you are very qualified, you do all your things properly, follow the regulative principles, and so what is it? Why are you so unhappy? So he glorifies him a little bit. But then Vyasadeva said that, you know what, okay, whatever you have said about me is absolutely correct, right? But then just by you praising me, that's not going to make me happy. Because what I want to know is, I want to know the root cause of my dissatisfaction. Why is it that I'm dissatisfied, right? And quite a few of you did mention that you have faced disappointment in life. So that is the question that we should also be asking, that why do we feel dissatisfaction? What is it that makes us, feel like that? And when he says that, Narad Muni, you are a man of unlimited knowledge, and we all know that, right? He's a great sage. And so that's what his focus was, that he wanted to know what the root cause was. Then we also hear about and read about Maharaj Yudhishthira's disappointments. Not all of them in the Bhagavatam, but the prelude to the Bhagavatam is from the Mahabharata. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, how do you think he was disappointed? Why do you think he was disappointed? What would be the situations that Maharaj Yudhishthira was disappointed? Into the microphone, if you are thinking of giving an answer. Why do you think, was Yudhishthira disappointed? Do you think he was? He was the emperor of the whole world. Any thoughts on why he was disappointed?
He was the king. He was the oldest of the Pandav, and he did not get the he did not get the throne. Like, it was still, I mean, I don't remember the exact story, but it's, so he was disappointed because he was capable, but he did not by right get what he deserved.
So very good. So he had the qualifications to the emperor, and he did not get it. So that's one disappointment. Yes, very good, Mataji. What's your name, Mataji?
Janki.
Janaki. Okay. Good, Janaki. Yeah. Microphone. Kautu karna Prabhu. Without microphone, no points.
Is it end of the war, or
anytime in his life? I mean, disappointment can hit us any time in the life, right?
I mean, for Maharaj Yudhishthira, I remember from Srimad Bhagavatam at the end of the war when he was being thrown and he has to take on the rule of the whole planet. He was not satisfied that because of him, so many people had to die. So many people, so many women have to become widows because of him. So he didn't want to take such kind of empire. Yeah. So that was his
Yes, so that was the biggest cause of his disappointment. And even prior to that, go into the arena where they are having the gambling match. It doesn't talk about the gambling match in Srimad Bhagavatam. But so you have the dice and you throw, and look at the disappointment. Every time you're throwing the dice and you're getting the wrong numbers. There was a lot of disappointment going on there because you have some expectation there, right? That the sixes will show up and they're not showing up. And look at the disappointment of a husband to see his wife being, tried to be derobed in the assembly of exalted people. So there was plenty of disappointment there in his life as well. Then Sati's disappointment. So a little bit about Sati over here. So Sati was the wife of Shiva. And this disappointment is mentioned in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're jumping from the 1st canto to the 2nd canto to the 4th canto, because 2nd doesn't talk about disappointments as such. 2nd is mostly creation. So we're busy creating things. We don't know yet what's going to happen from all that creation, how much of disappointment we're going to get from that. But so second canto is silent on that. In the 3rd canto, we do talk about disappointment, but it's a different kind of a disappointment. It's a disappointment that is expressed by the demigods when Jai and Vijay, the 2 doorkeepers from Vaikuntha, they fall down from the Vaikuntha into this material world. So they are very disappointed that, oh, that's happening. But not in the sense of that, they had an expectation, it was not met and things like that. Of course, there was a subtle expectation that if you are in the Vaikuntha planet, that we will not fall down, but fall downs can happen anytime. So over onto the 4th canto, we talk about Sati's disappointment. So Sati was the wife of Shiva, and she was the daughter of, who was Sati's father? Anybody remember? Daksha, very good. Thank you, Sumudra Mataji. So she was a daughter of Daksha, and Daksha was a Prajapati. So he was the head Prajapati, and so Prajapati's job is to increase and multiply so that the population can take birth. So this is the very beginning. It's Satyuga. So it's the very beginning of the creation where we have very few people there, so to speak. And so Daksha's father is Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma had asked Daksha that, your daughter Sati, you give her in marriage to Lord Shiva. Now Lord Shiva is very austere. He doesn't come across as a very opulent person, but in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very nice description of Kailash and all the opulence which is there in the Kailash where he stays. So it's not that he doesn't have money, but or the opulences, but because of his sheer nature that is very simple, he stays that way. And also he has got a very magnanimous heart because he takes care of the people who are very downtrodden, which is like the ghost and the pishachas and the lowest of the lowest, right? So he takes care of all that. So by position, by qualities, by qualification, Shiva is actually much higher than Daksha. But Daksha was very puffed up because his father had made him the chief of all the Prajapatis. So Daksha was, he used to do a lot of Karamkandi activities, have yagyas, etc. for material benefits. And so he invited all the demigods and a lot of other people from other planetary systems to his sacrifice. And so all these luminaries came, and they were seated there. And when Daksha entered the arena, Daksha, because of his sheer power, was very, very good looking. He was very effulgent, and just his sheer power, because of the sheer power, there was a lot of influence on the people who were sitting in that assembly. And as Daksha entered the assembly, everybody got up, except for Lord Shiva and Brahma. Now Brahma didn't get up because Brahma is Daksha's dad. He doesn't have a need to get up when the sun comes, right? And Lord Shiva, again, Lord Shiva did not get up, and our acharyas define it as multiple reasons why he didn't get up, but I'm just going to bring up two of them. One was that that Shiva is always meditating on the Lord's lotus feet, so he didn't even see Daksha come in. And second is that when you get up and you pay obeisances to other people, what exactly are we doing? We are not actually paying obeisances to that person. We are actually paying obeisances to the super soul who is there in the heart. Right? So for that, he doesn't have to get up. He had already paid obeisances to the super soul because he's already meditating on him. So there was no need actually for Shiva to actually get up. But Daksha doesn't like it, and he starts speaking some nonsense words. And because of that, people on the side of Shiva get angry, and then the people on the side of Daksha get angry, and there are curses and counter curses and things like that. And Shivji doesn't like that. He didn't even like his followers to start cursing and speaking, bad on behalf of it. Although his followers were thinking like, well, somebody is blaspheming my master, so I should take up the cudgels on behalf of my master because he's not speaking. But Shiva's disciples should have just followed what their master was doing. If the master is quiet, then they should have just kept quiet as well. They shouldn't have spoken up. So Shivji was very, very unhappy because of all that. So he gets up and leaves the arena and he goes back. So when he leaves that, then it is not good, because for a sacrifice, all the demigods have to be there present in that sacrifice. So now there is the Daksha and Shiva get into we are not talking terms. So they don't talk for many, many years like that. And Sati, of course, she's his wife, so she goes back with her husband. But in the heart of her heart, she has a desire to meet her relatives, her sisters, her father, and she really doesn't like, but she was her father, Daksha's pet daughter, favorite daughter. And so staying away from her father, and also she didn't like this Cold War that was going on between her father and her husband. And so many, many years later, there was another sacrifice, Brihaspati's sacrifice that Daksha was performing. And he invited everybody, but he did not invite Shiva to that. And actually prior to that, he had also completed another sacrifice, and he didn't invite Shiva to that either. So when all the other people were going to Daksha's place to participate in the sacrifice, Sati from her place could see various aeroplanes going, and all the ladies there, and her sisters, cousins and all, nicely dressed up in fine clothes, fine jewelry, they're all going there. So she's a lady, she also wanted to participate there, put on her fine jewelry and go there and meet with her father, her sister, her mother and things like that. So she goes to Shiva and tries to convince him that, we should also go. But Shiva tells her that, no. In a nutshell, he tells her, don't go to a place where you are not invited. And don't go to a place where the host is in an angry mood and might say harsh and angry words to you. So she hears that. In the heart of her heart, she knows that Shiva is not in favor of her going. But she still says that, I have told you this, but then you make your own decision. But she knows what is right and wrong. But in the heart of her heart, the heart is kind of, trying to rule over the intelligence. The mind is giving various kinds of thoughts and trying to rule over the intelligence, which is telling her that don't go. So she's just, goes to another room, is pacing back and forth, and finally she just decides that, I really want this thing to be patched up between my father and my husband. So I'm just going to go. So she rushes away from there because she's afraid that Shiva might see her leaving and stop her. So she rushes, but then Shiva has got followers. So then when they see her rushing, then they go after her, give her, put her in a palanquin and, give her a fan, bring her favorite parrot and all that, and she goes there. Now, when she goes to her father's place, then the father ignores her completely. Her mother and her sisters are very happy to see her. They talk to her, they hug her, they ask how she is. But Sati has not gone there to meet her mother and her sister. They were not the focal point. Her focal point was her father, and trying to patch up with father and Shiva. So when the father does not respect her, does not welcome her, does not love her, she's really, really heartbroken. And then she says certain harsh things to her father in defense of her husband. And then, although she is Durga herself, Sati, she has got the capabilities to kill anybody she wants to kill, right? But she doesn't do that, because then she thinks that, the whole world is going to say that Shiva actually employed his wife to kill Daksha, his enemy. So she doesn't do that. She also thinks that she's also very disappointed, I have to use that word, with all that happens. And then she also feels that, I am related to Daksha because of this body. I have taken birth through from his body. and I don't want to have that relationship at all. So let me give up this body. So she has got, yogic powers, and through that yogic powers, right in the front of her mothers and sisters, she gives up her body. And at that time, she focuses on the lotus feet of her husband, Shiva. And we know, rest is history, that she gets born as the daughter of the Himalayas, and as Himvati, and goes and gets married to Shiva again, right? So Sati's disappointment was that she goes there to patch up, is not able to patch up, and the father, of course, doesn't recognize her over there. Then continuing on in the same canto, we have Dhruva Maharaja's disappointments as well, right? Dhruva Maharaj was a descendant coming down from Brahma, and Manu. So Manu had two sons. He had Uttanpad and Priyavata. And Uttanpad was Dhruva Maharaja's father. And Uttanpad had two wives. He had Sunuti and Suruchi. Now Sunuti was the elder wife and was Dhruva's mother. And Suruchi was the younger wife. She had a son called Uttam, and she was actually the king's favorite. And so much so that king hardly paid any attention to Dhruva's mom. She was living in a palace, but almost like a servant, you get the food, nobody talks to you kind of stuff. So one day, Suruchi, as usual, was with her husband and her son, and the son was seated on the lap of the king. Now, Dhruva, who was 5 years old, he walks into the room, and he's a child, and he wants to get onto the lap of his father as well. So he runs into the room and tries to get on. But then Suruchi, the stepmother, says, wait, you cannot do that. You are not born from my womb, so you cannot climb onto the lap of the emperor. If you want to really sit on the lap of the king, then you have to be born from my womb. Go pray to the Lord that you be born from my womb, and then take birth from my womb. And in this underline, hidden in these statements of Suruchi is also the statement saying that you die first, right? How can Dhruva Maharaj take birth from her womb unless he dies first, right? So it's a pretty harsh statement that she's saying, and the king doesn't say anything. He's henpecked, doesn't say anything at all. He keeps quiet. So Dhruva Maharaj is very disappointed at this point. Number one, he wanted to climb on the lap of the king. He's not able to do that. Number two, he had expectation that the king will take his side. The king will speak up. The king doesn't speak. So Dhruva Maharaj is disappointed again. So as it happens in the palaces, the word of mouth spreads, and the word reaches the queen, Suniti, as well, that this has happened. And then of course Dhruv is so angry. He's born in a Kshatriya family. He's very, very angry with all that has happened. And then he goes, and from his anger, this is anger and frustration and disappointment, all that combined together, he just doesn't know. He's a 5-year-old boy. His body starts to tremble because of anger, but then he also starts crying. So this is like a multiple emotions are being expressed by Dhruva Maharaj, and he goes running to his mom. And the mother has heard all this by this time, so she comes, she hugs him and says that what happened. And he explained, he says, I wanted to sit on the lap of my dad, and he didn't allow me to do that. And on top of that, my stepmother said this and this and this. And he starts crying again. And then Suniti just says that, what can I do? You're crying. I will also cry. That's all I can do, because I have no powers at all. Your father doesn't love me. I have nothing here, that I can help. However, what your stepmother is saying is correct, because in all that harsh words that she was saying, she did say one good word, and that was, take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is what you should do. You should go and pray to the Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj said, what does the king think of himself? Like he's a big king, and so he can do like that. I want a kingdom which is better than what the king has. No, I want a kingdom which is better than his father. No, I want a kingdom that is better than his grandfather's kingdom. So his grandfather, like the Uttanpad's grandfather, is Lord Brahma. So Dhruva is asking for a kingdom which is better than Brahma's kingdom. Now Brahma lives in this material world, and Brahma's planet, Brahmaloka, is the topmost planet in the material world, in this universe. And it's a beautiful planet, very, very beautiful. And I've heard sages speak that this planet actually changes the color every day. So I mean, we are here on Earth, it's supposed to be blue. But think about, Brahma's planet, full of opulence, the houses, the rivers, the types of flowers, the types of fruits that grow, everything is very, very opulent there. And he wanted something even better than that. So he says, okay, fine, I will go and I will pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, he does do that, and we'll cover that a little later. But after his prayers are over, and when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears before him, then at that time, Dhruv Maharaj gets disappointed again. So here you wanted something, and you're asking God to give it to you, and now God is standing in front of you, and you are saying, oh my goodness, is this what Supreme Personality of Godhead is? And all effulgence and all transcendence, and what was I asking? Why did I ask for pieces of glass when a diamond is standing in front of me? Why did I not pray that I go back to Godhead? Why did I want to stay in this material world? So his disappointment comes back again in a different form. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that disappointments are lurking around you, around the corner, ready to grasp you. So we have to be very, very careful. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. And I was talking to my Guru Maharaj yesterday, and I was telling him that, this is a topic, we were talking about the topic that I'm going to talk about, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's Sunday feast. After 2 hours of talking about disappointments, I hope you'll still have some appetite left for prasadam. But let's see. There's still hope there. So then, in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, where we talk about Bharat Maharaj's disappointment. Bharat Maharaj was a very exalted king, and he was in a very nice position, wonderful Rajashri. He was a devotee of the Lord, and at the right time, right point in time in his life, he gives up everything: his beautiful wife, his beautiful sons, his wonderful kingdom, and he says, "It's time now for me to concentrate on going back to Godhead and just be done with this material world." So he goes and starts living in a forest, and he spends his whole time in meditating on the Lord. Till one day, his meditation is broken because of the roar of a lion. And when the lion roars in the forest, all the animals start to run. And as the animals were running, among all those animals, there was also one deer, and she was pregnant. She was carrying a small deer inside her body. And as she's running, fearful of that the lion is going to eat her up, she comes across a little stream of water, not knowing what to do, but she's a mom, and she wants to take care of the child who's in the womb. She jumps across the stream with all her might. And she lands on the other side, completely exhausted, goes into a cave and gives birth to the child, and then dies from the sheer labor of that. Now, King Bharat is watching all that. And he says, oh my goodness, she's dead now. Now who's going to take care of this little deer that is born? So he brings the deer to him. He takes care of the deer. He gets completely attached to the deer. And so much so that the deer has actually becoming a hindrance in his devotional service. For example, he has to do his meditation, so he has to sit on a kusa grass. So he goes and gets the kusa grass. Now he, purifies the kusa grass and puts it there. He's about to sit on it, and then this little deer comes and starts nibbling at it. Now the kusha grass is all spoiled, right? An animal cannot touch things that you're using for devotional service. Right? But then he just says, oh, you naughty deer, you shouldn't have done that. Let me do an achman again like that. So this deer is constantly becoming a nuisance to him by way of this. Also, he's always thinking about gathering food for the deer. If the deer is a deer, so deers will frolic all the time. They'll be running here and there. So if the deer goes out, he's scared, like, is the lion going to get the little one? Oh, he's gone out for half an hour. He should have been back by now. So constantly, his mind is now thinking about the deer. So without even noticing, it happens at times in our life that we progress on a path of devotional service, and we get a hindrance or an attachment to something, and you don't even know that you have digressed and gone on a totally different path, which is very far from the goal which was on this side. Okay? So very, very far off you're there. So it's very important for us to be constantly steering ourselves and getting back to the same path that we were destined or that we had set out to follow. So then he's very, very attached to her, and one fine day the deer doesn't come back home. It gets dark and the king is getting very, very worried. He's constantly thinking about the deer. And at that time, he meets with his death. So when death comes, the last thought on the king's mind is, who is going to take care of the deer? Now, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Tajyatante kalevaram tam tam evati konteya sada tad bhav bhavita. Whatever you think about, you become that. So now, as soon as Bharat Maharaj leaves his body of the king and gets into the body of a deer, the disappointment starts like, oh my goodness, what did I do? Right? Because this Manish Deha is very durlabham, it is sudurlabham. You get this for performing devotional service. So I had such a wonderful opportunity to go back to Godhead in that one lifetime. And what did I do? I just, developed attachment to a deer, and here I am in the body of a deer, but I can't do devotional service just as I could do. So he's extremely disappointed, but because he was an exalted devotee of the Lord, and had reached a very high level of devotional service, so Krishna, from within his heart, made him remember all these things, right? Because in the body of a deer, he should have forgotten everything about his previous life, but he still remembers that I was a devotee in the previous life. So he goes back to the same ashram where he was originally performing his devotional service. He actually even stops eating because he doesn't want to live for a long time in the deer's body. So deer, actually, deer especially, they are soft, and a baby deer is even more soft. And so they like to eat leaves, but they will like to eat soft leaves, right? So that it doesn't hurt the tongue. But this deer, Bharat Maharaj in the form of a deer, actually started eating dry leaves and twigs and things like that. So not to develop a taste for that, not to get any kind of attachment to anything that a deer does now. So he's learned his lesson. So he stays there. So that is his disappointment that, after all, later on, he does rectify that in his next birth. Then we have King Anga's disappointment, and actually this appears in fourth canto, that King Anga wanted to do Ashwamedha Yajna, and as part of the Ashwamedha Yajna, he was doing it for a long time, spending a lot of money, and as part of the Yajna, the demigods are supposed to come, and they were not coming. And then so that is a disappointment. I've spent so much of money, made so much of investment, and they are supposed to come, they're not coming. Disappointment number one. Disappointment number two, so then he asked the sages there that, why, what's going on? Why is this happening that way? So then they tell that, the reason is that you don't have a son. In your previous birth, you did something wrong, because of that you don't have a son. So then king says, so what should I do? So then they tell him, well, if you do this, more yajnas, because this is all karmakandi activities, right? You want to get some opulence, you want to have a son, okay, I have a solution for you. And that is what Ved Vyas was documenting in all the Vedas, all these nice solutions. So then he has a son, but then his wife actually came from a not very pure lineage. She came from the side of the demons, so she had demoniac blood in her. So when King Anga's son is born, he takes the characteristics from the mother. So typically the sons take the characteristics from the mother's side, and the daughters take the characteristics from the father's side. So this son had some of the characteristics of the demons, and actually he was quite a bit of a demon. So that was King Anga's disappointment, to have a son who was so horrible that just for the sake of fun, he would kill even his playmates. So you can imagine, a child walks in and then shoots, or takes out a sword and kills his playmates like that. So he was very, very disappointed because of that. Then we have Chitraketu's disappointment comes up in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so Chitraketu was a king, and he had many wives. How many? Many? How many is many? Somebody might say one is enough, one is many. How many wives did he have? The Shastras say that he had millions of wives. And despite the millions of wives that he was lamenting that I had millions of wives, but I do not have a single son. He badly wanted to have a son. Right? So one day, a sage Angira comes to his palace, and he's sitting down there, and he gets up, welcomes the sage, and gives him a place to sit, gives him some nice food to eat, and then he says that, Angira, I really want to have a son. Can you do something about it? So Angira says, well, you know what? I can do something about it, but I'm going to tell you that this son is going to give you happiness, and the son is also going to give you some regrets, some distress, some disappointment. So then Chitraketu thinks about it and he says, yeah, that's fine, like kids will be kids will give you trouble, right? You take so much of trouble to bring the kids, give birth to the kid, then you bring them up, you drop them off to the school and you buy them the books, and then of course the teacher calls you. The son has done something in the school, right? So we've all been through that. So the king says that that's okay, kids will do that. So what's the big deal? We can do that. So he says, I'll take it, Angira. So Angira said, okay, fine, here's a fruit, a mango, and you give it to your wife, and when she eats that mango, then she'll be able to conceive a child. So she goes and gives the fruit to his first wife, who was obviously the right choice. She was a beautiful lady and very chaste and good in character as well. And in due course of time, she gives birth to a son, and the king is extremely happy because of the birth of a son, which he so badly wanted. And then he also becomes very attached to this wife who has given him the son that he wanted so much. So now this queen becomes his only favorite queen. And all the other queens are no good because they didn't have a child. So guess what? The other queens now start feeling envious. They don't like it at all. That, earlier at least, all of them were in the same plane, childless, right? Now this one has a child, and that too a son. On those days, a son was a big thing because it was a monarchy and he needed a son. And so they are very, very envious. And one day the envy takes over them to such an extent that they all gang up together and they give poison to this little boy. And the boy dies. So when the king comes to know about it, he falls down, he cries very, very bitterly, extremely bitterly he cries. And that is when he is feeling disappointed. He says that, well, Angira had told me that the son is going to give me joy, bring me joy, harsha, and shoka, he's going to bring me lamentation as well. But I didn't, I went for it. And this is what happened. I thought it'll be a small thing. Death, I didn't realize that this is what's going to happen. So we have a crestfallen and a disappointed king in the form of Chitraketu. Churning of oceans, Canto 8 is my favorite. And I guess it's your favorite as well, because all of us are trying to churn something or other in our life, isn't it? Apart from butter, right? So some churning, any project that we undertake, there's a lot of churning that happens. Right? You set out to do something and something else that happens. The churning of ocean is full of disappointment. So who were churning the oceans? Who were the guys who were churning the oceans? On the microphone, Lekha, if you're going to tell me.
The demons and the devas were
demigods, yeah, demons and devas, demons and the demigods were going to churn the ocean. And what did they want to churn? What did they want out of it? Why were they churning? What did they want?
They wanted the nectar,
they wanted the nectar.
Yes.
Yes, they wanted the nectar so that they could live forever, or so they thought, right? Right? So they wanted nectar. So they are going to churn the ocean. And so if you're going to churn an ocean, a simple Vitamix mixie is not going to do the job for you. You need something really big to do the churning, right? So they go and take a mountain to do the churning, right? What mountain do they take? Mandrachal? They take the Mandrachal mountain, okay. And then you need a rope, right, to do the churning? So what do they use as the rope? They used a snake called Vasuki, right? So you need that. So when they tie the snake around it, and on one side there will be the demigods, and on the second side there will be the demons, right? So they will start churning, and what happens as they start churning is that even before they can start the churning, there's a fight between the demons and the demigods as to who is going to catch hold of the snake's tail and who's going to catch hold of the snake's mouth. And so the face is supposed to be a better part of the body than the fag end of it. So the demons say that we want to have the face. And so they get to have the face of Vasuki. So that's fine. So they're holding the face side of Vasuki, and the demigods have got the tail and they are churning. And guess what? Because of the churning that happens, is because the mountain is shaped like that, the mountain slips and it falls down. So disappointment number one. You're churning, your heart is gone. Now you have to find something. So they go to Vishnu. That's what demigods do. They go to Vishnu and they listen to Vishnu, which is a good thing. And they go there and Vishnu comes, all right, fine, I'm going to come in the form of a Kurma avatar. I'm going to put the thing on my back and fine, use me as the pivot. So it'll be a good thing also because I'm feeling a little itchy on my back, so you can use it as to scratch. So they go there and they start churning again, and because of all the churning that is happening, I'm using somebody's body to do the churning, and Vasuki is not happy at all with all the churning, so he gets angry. So when he gets angry, then fire starts coming from the mouth. And guess what? Who gets the burnt of the fire? The demons, right? So that's the disappointment, that after taking something which was the best part of the body, you get this. I mean, some of them even died, but they were resuscitated again, but that's a different story. So there's disappointment that happens there. So once the churning starts again, and then after much churning, and something starts coming out of the ocean, and everybody thinks that this is the nectar coming out, but it's not nectar. What is it? It is halahal. It is poison. And the poison was so strong that it started affecting everybody, and then they had to call Shiva to drink all that poison and hold it in his neck, because he can't drink it all the way down. Right? And then, after the halahal, then Lakshmi comes, beautiful Lakshmi, everybody wants to marry her. And then she goes and puts the Jayamala around Vishnu. So there's a lot of disappointment for a lot of people there. And then comes the nectar, what they were looking for, right? So that's what happens in our projects also, right? Finally, we're going to get what we were looking for. Finally, we will release that software. And well, the nectar comes, but then from somewhere this beautiful Mohini Murti also comes. And then she tricks the demons and starts giving all the nectar to the demigods. So even after working so hard for so long, the demons are disappointed there. Then in the Bhagavatam also we have mention of Gopi's disappointment with Brahma. Anybody wants to make a guess on why they were disappointed? Gautukarnava is very enthusiastic.
They are disappointed with the Creator because he has created the eyelids because they close and they are not able to behold Krishna for a moment.
Very right. Yeah. So they are disappointed by the engineering skills of Brahma, who has created this vision, viewing apparatus which constantly blinks, and then for a nimish, they're not able to view Krishna. So that was the love that they had. But sometimes when you are so much intensely in love that you could have some sort of a disappointment show up like this. This is a transcendental disappointment, by the way. But I just thought that while we are on the topic of wonderful topic of disappointments. We'll talk about that. Then Gopi's disappointments are also mentioned in the Bhagavatam and in the form of 10th canto, in the form of the Gitas, that are there, and which is where Akrura comes to take Krishna away, and he's actually taking Krishna away. And the gopis are feeling a lot of separation there. And they're very disappointed that he's going away. They're very disappointed that none of the elders there are stopping him from going away. So at that level too, we have gopis feeling disappointment there. So that was some of the disappointments from Srimad Bhagavatam. But let's see closer home. Do we have some examples of disappointments? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I just brought him up because it is his appearance day on 25th of December, this coming Tuesday, and we will be celebrating that in the morning. So please make sure that you do come around the morning Aarti time. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the spiritual master of? No points for not using the microphone.
Spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada.
Of Srila Prabhupada, exactly right. So what disappointments did he have? He had Srila Prabhupada for a disciple. What disappointments did he have? Akrinath Prabhu, please give him a microphone.
He sent some sannyasis to London, but he called them back because they weren't making enough devotees there.
They were not making. So he had this desire to spread Krishna consciousness in the Western world. He sent his disciples there, and they did not bring any results. And one of the reasons for that was they did not have faith in their spiritual master. So thank you so much, Eknath Prabhu, for bringing that. Yeah. And on his on the personal side of his life as well, we all know that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a brahmachari. And in the younger days, 4 or 5 of the friends had gotten together and had pledged that they will be brahmacharis all their lives. And in the end, it was only Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who remained. So there are disappointments, which come across our life every now and then. Did Srila Prabhupada face any disappointments? Or everything was smooth and hunky-dory for him? No disappointments? Yes, disappointments? Yes or no? Akunath Prabhu is raising his hands again.
Well, Srila Prabhupada always encouraged us, in spite of the fact that we made so many mistakes, and I'm sure that things didn't always go the way he wanted them to go. And sometimes also the devotees quarreled with each other, leading devotees quarreled with each other, sometimes devotees left. He made a lot of sannyasis, young sannyasis. He felt that we needed sannyasis to have life as a movement. But, young men are not encouraged to take sannyas usually, and especially young Westerners who don't really have strong footing in this culture and who have easily distracted by material opulence and so forth here in this country. And many of the sannyasis fell down, and sometimes Srila Prabhupada was very disappointed in that. And sometimes he would even say, "That's it, I'm not making any more sannyasis." But then he did it again, because he said we need some sannyasis. But I mean, yes, things did not go smoothly, and Srila Prabhupada was the master commander that was making sure, putting out the fires all over the place in the movement. And we were, and speaking for myself, very inadequate, but Srila Prabhupada would give us challenges and give us the inspiration to rise to meet the challenges.
The challenge, yeah, thank you so much. And when it comes from the mouth of a Prabhupada disciple, you get that special nectar. And also, like in the beginning of his life, Prabhupada really wanted his wife to help him, and that was a disappointment for him, the wife not participating. Actually, she actually sold off one of his manuscripts to buy some biscuits that she could have with her tea. And of course, Prabhupada didn't want her to have tea, and she would go and have tea as well. So that was another disappointment. The kids not taking to Krishna consciousness and supporting their father, not all of them did that. So that was another of his disappointment. And of course, Akunath Prabhu mentioned so nicely about all the disappointments that he continued to face even after he came here, and even when he came here to USA, he had a typewriter, money problems, he had a typewriter, and somebody came and stole his typewriter also. So these things kept on coming to him, and disappointment after disappointment, but he held his head there. So all these stories that we talked about, Bhagavatam or Prabhupada or kids giving problem, wife giving problem, does it sound familiar to you? Any part of it resembles your life? Yes or yes? Yes. Okay, it resembles my life too. Okay. So, are you looking for solutions? So you can have prasadam in peace today? Yeah. So before we go to the and find the solutions to that, we have to first understand the situation in which we are, right? Where we are, and then we'll be able to find a solution to that. So I have been using the word disappointment a lot because that's the topic of today's class. So if you break the word disappointment into two, you will get dis and you'll get appointment. So there is some appointment that is broken when you get disappointed. So what was it that you were trying to, what was the appointment that you wanted which was broken, because of which you're going through these feelings? Right? So we actually, have you ever been stood up on a date? And I'm not necessarily talking about a romantic date. It could be any date. Somebody said they'll meet you for dinner, or they'll meet you for some discussions, and you went there all prepared and they never showed up. Happened? Never happened? Yes, right? So I want a little bit more energy in the room for a yes. Give me a big yes. Yes. Yeah, okay, good, thank you. So what we are trying to do all the time when we start making these plans of enjoying ourselves, right? For example, Chitraketu wanted to enjoy having a son, right? Sati wanted to enjoy, what did she enjoy? She wanted respect for her husband and good relationships, right? So she wanted to enjoy that. So each one of them that we listed over there wanted to have something or the other, right? So they wanted to enjoy, and we actually here in this material world, so to speak, they were trying to have a date with Maya. And when you get stood up on that date, then you don't like it. Maya doesn't come to fulfill your desires. And we don't like it. So that is what happens to us in this material world. As we live here as the embodied soul, in this material world there will be waves of material energy that keep on hitting us left, right and center all the time. The three modes of passion. What are the three modes of passion? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, right? So they keep on these waves. This is this tiny jiva. I don't even know whether you can see him. This is one little tiny jiva. There's another little tiny jiva over here. So these waves can, you might be thinking, oh, I'm enjoying it. And the next moment, a big wave comes up, launches you overhead and then throws you back down. This is what happens to us all the time. And so because of that, in this ocean of material world, we actually go through 5 states of suffering. So we have to understand our situation, that this is what we are, this is what we earned in this material world, right? So we better learn about it. So what are those 5 states of sufferings in this material world? They are the Pa, Fa, Ba, Bha, and Ma. They are actually the Pavarga, they are also the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet and Hindi alphabet as well. So what do these mean, right? The Pa stands actually for Parishrama, very hard labor. So we have to do a lot of hard labor. And as I'm noticing that the hard labor that we have to do even to make the both ends meet is becoming more and more and more. For example, my parents were both teachers. My father was a professor in the university. My mom used to teach in my school itself. And both of them used to come home at 2 o'clock and they were done. They were done for the day. And we were 4 kids and we grew up nicely. Not very opulently, but nicely. And that is what matters in the end. And then in my lifetime, I used to work from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the evening. I could afford to bring up only 1 child, like that. I would come home at 5, and then when I started joining the private organizations, it became 6 and 7. When I came to USA, it became 8. But it stopped at 8. When I came back home at 8, I was done. Right? And now my daughter, when she comes back from her work, she has to make calls to the customers, calls to the clients, and some of you might be talking to people in India or other parts of the world. So with all this globalization, that 9 to 5 or 8 to 2 kind of jobs are completely gone. You have to work really, really hard. There's a lot of competition. And in the days of my parents, how much you were teaching in a university was very simple. My father was a geologist, so different types of rocks and be done with it. But nowadays, in technology especially, things are changing all the time. If you don't read for 1 month, you're so outdated. So many new things keep on coming up. You have to be doing parishram all the time. So this is a wave of material energy that in order to survive and live a decent life, you have to do a lot of parishram. So Pa comes from there, the parishram. And this is actually from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where they're talking about the life of a good man. Then Fa is Fena. Fena means foam. So when you're working very, very hard, as you can see in the case of this horse, that there is some foam that is coming out from your mouth. So we as living entities also have to work so hard that literally foam comes out from our mouth. Literally. So the Fa stands for that. Then Ba, our favorite word, has come back here again. The Ba stands for Vyarthata. Vyarthata means disappointment. Right? So keep in mind, don't have high hopes. Keep in mind that disappointment is one of the waves that is going to hit us while we are in the material world. So as long as you are mentally tuned to that fact, the heartache will be less. when you are disappointed. Okay. Then bha stands for bhay, or fear. What is the biggest fear in life? I can't hear if it's on a microphone, not on a microphone. Yeah.
Death.
The fear of death, right? Apart from that, are there any other fears people have? Any other fears you guys have apart from death? Insecurity. Thank you so much from the back of the room for 50 points. Insecurity. So you are insecure about what? With Mike, yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to lose the train, but I remember there's one purport in, I think, the Bhagavad Gita 241, where Srila Prabhupada says, the greatest fear is the fear of taking birth again as an animal.
Thank you so much, yeah. That is the biggest fear that we should have. Death is okay. Actually, to a devotee, death is not something to be afraid of. If you think or equate death to be the mouse of a cat, then if you are a devotee, then you are a kitten. And if you are not devotee, then you are a rat. So when a cat comes and takes a rat in the mouth, that is sure death. But when a cat takes a kitten in the mouth, she's actually carrying the kitten from one place to another safe place, like that. So devotee doesn't care about the death. But what he really fears is falling down into an animal body. Who fell down into an animal body? Recently, a few slides ago. Huh? Bharat Maharaj, yeah, correct, right? So bhaya. And in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, we have the Navayogendras, and they tell us that the fear arises when you think that you are separate from the Lord. That is the main reason that we are afraid. So Papa Bhaba, and Ma is Mrityu, as you said, Prabhu, that is the cause of fear. So Mrityu is there, death is there, is going to happen. It's got 100% success rate. Right? You can bet on it, but we don't gamble. So like that. So those are the 5. So you have some words of wisdom for you. To rest assured. You can rest assured on this one. It will ultimately disappoint you. So why does it ultimately disappoint you? Because somebody might say that I can get over the pa. I don't have to do parishram because my papa made a lot of money for me. And because of that, I don't even have to do the fa because I don't have to work. Things are easy and smooth in my industry that my dad gave me, right? Like I'm not scared of anything. I don't have insecurity of losing my job or losing my loved one or anything like that. I don't have any of that. But the 5th one, the Mrityu, is going to come and get you. So in the end, rest assured, ultimately it's going to disappoint you. Because after leading such a beautiful life, your pa taking care of everything for you, then in the end, when you have to give it all up, it's very, very difficult and very, very disappointing. Prabhupada talks about people asking the doctor that I'm going to pay you so many lakhs of rupees, can you just extend my life by 4 months or 6 months or whatever? And doctors cannot do that. They just cannot do that. They can't extend your life by even half a moment. You will die when you're supposed to die, like that. So it's going to ultimately get you there. So then how to prevent these disappointments? Okay. So one, like I said, that you set the right expectation for yourself in the first place. Why even go down that route where you will be disappointed? Don't even go there. Right? So Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says that Mamapetya Punarjanma Dukhalayam Ashashvatam Napnuvanti Mahatmanam. Right? So this material world is Dukhalayam. Ala means home. Like Pustakalaya is a home for books, Bhojanalaya is a home for bhojan. Right? Similarly, Dukhalayam is a home for dukh. So this material world is a home for dukh. So just try to abandon the ship and go. And Ashashvatam means that it is perishable. It is not eternal. It will go away. So whatever plans, whatever schemes, whatever things that you're trying to gather together, they will all go away. So keep that in your mind. And even when it comes to relationships, the relationships also will change. And in 11th canto of Bhagavatam, we talk about, people coming together like two sticks on an ocean, and then a wave comes and they are separated like that. So there is nothing really permanent from the material perspective in this material world. So, despite all that, despite not setting expectations and knowing all these papa, baba, ma, and all that kind of stuff, but still we might end up in a situation that we are disappointed. Right? So, if you are in a situation, then let's see how can we overcome all these disappointment. So, there's a book, Glorification of Srila Prabhupada, and there I was reading his disciples glorifying him, and they say that Prabhupada gave the example of a man adrift in the ocean who cannot become happy, no matter how hard he tries. Right? If you are thrown into the ocean, how will you be happy? You can't even drink the water there. There are sharks all around you. You don't naturally swim. And even if you know how to swim, ocean is huge. It's difficult to swim against those things. So you can never be happy in that ocean, Prabhupada says. If you want to be happy, you have to come back to the land. Come back to the land, because that's where you belong, terra firma. I still remember that I had not realized that we really like putting our foot on Mother Earth. We really feel very secure when your feet are on the ground. When I came first to USA, I was traveling every week. Every week I would be from the east coast to the west, from the west to the east, I would travel. And so when you're up in the air, you have no control. You're not driving that plane, and you're scared that the pilot might go to sleep or something might happen. So you feel pretty, uneasy there. And so when the plane would land and I would put my foot there, I used to feel so good. And after doing it over and over for so many months, I was getting so tired of that instead of taking a direct flight from the west to the east, I used to always fly via Denver or Chicago or something like that, so that the plane would land and I would put my foot on the earth. So this much is how, you really want to get back to the land, because that's where you are comfortable, standing on the land, on part of it. So, so Prabhupada says that, talking about ISKCON and the programs that he has, he says that our program is not to become happy by so-called adjustments. This is very, very important. Don't try to make adjustments in this material world. They just backfire at you. So our program is not to become happy by so-called adjustments of our material condition. If only I can get a better dishwasher. If only I can get a cook to cook for me, my life will be better. If only I can do that, right? No, don't try to make adjustments in your material condition. That is not possible. That's a very strong statement he's making. That is not possible. Very, very straightforward, he said. Better come to the spiritual platform and act in the spiritual life. So you have to raise our consciousness to that higher level where we realize that, okay, I am the soul. I'm not this body. Then there is a possibility of having some happiness there. And in a letter to Suchandra, he says that we are all new and weak in this Krishna consciousness. So if you're thinking, all right, fine, I will do as Prabhupada says, and I will follow, try to be Krishna conscious, but it's difficult, and there are anarthas, and like that, I'm getting disappointed again in my devotional service, like that, right? So Prabhupada is assuring, he's saying that, we are all very new and we are weak in this Krishna consciousness movement, and he says that it's kind of like as if it is a hospital, where everybody is sick, except for the doctors. Everybody in the hospital is sick. And if they are sick, then they are trying to get better. And it might happen that somebody might have a relapse. So if they have a relapse, they have a relapse. So just be aware of it, that people will have a relapse when you are trying to improve, you're trying to go down a road, you might fall down. If you have a relapse, then the thing is that how quickly do you want to get back to getting normal? How quickly do you want to get back to being good there again? So it is now our business to struggle with Maya. So like I was saying, you want to have a date with Maya and she doesn't show up. So you're struggling with Maya. And when we win out by Krishna's grace, that is to regain a natural, healthy life of Krishna consciousness. So there is no case of disappointment. So what Prabhupada is saying is that understand that this material world is like that. So once you understand this material world is like that, then there won't be any cause of disappointment. Right? Because sometimes we go, like for example, people get married. And the girl thinks that, the boy is going to sing couplets to me and things like that. And lo and behold, she gets married to a person who doesn't talk at all. Right? So all the hopes are dashed to the ground and you are disappointed in that. So if you go there with open mind into these kind of situations, then the disappointment will be much less. Right? So if you take to Krishna consciousness, then Prabhupada is saying that material world, these kind of things will happen, but if you raise yourself to the level of Krishna consciousness, to Vasudev, right, level, then actually there is no case of disappointment. You can all have your prasadam today. Nicely. Okay? So have that mindset. So when we come across disappointments in our life, we try to fix it. Right? That's what that section is now. How do we take care of disappointments in our life? Where Prabhupada told us all that. Yeah, well, yeah, that's good. How do I fix my disappointments in life? So we try to do the classic way. Try to find material solutions to material problems. And you'll end up with more material problems. You'll end up with a bigger maze than you started with. Okay? So it's crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. You'll be running from here and there, pa, ba, ba, ma. You know, they'll continue to get you because you are still hovering on the material plane. Some of the ways in which people get over disappointments. Can you give me some examples of how people get over disappointments in a material way? No points for not
traffic jam, Mataji.
So in a traffic jam, yeah, so how do you get out of that disappointment of having caught in a traffic jam? By trying to find a material solution to that. So you're in a traffic jam, you had to go to your office, but you are jammed, so that you can't go to office, right? So now the frustration is building up. So how can you take care of that? Okay, I have takers here.
I think that was a good opportunity to chant.
That's very good. Let's give a round of applause for that answer. An opportunity to chant. So that was a transcendental solution. What's a material solution to that?
Road rage.
Material solution to that is road rage. You drive on the shoulder. And guess what? The cops come right behind you. Right? So when you try to find these kind of solutions, another solution, and I didn't know of that till I came here to USA, and my daughter actually told me this. That you have a breakup in a relationship, plenty of disappointment there. So what you do is you sit down and surround yourself with a big 18-inch pizza and a gallon of ice cream and some Coke, and you eat yourself crazy. That's how you handle a break in a relationship, and you're done with it. So what's going to happen? The next day you're going to throw up with all that pizza inside you, right? And the relationship is still there. The heartbreak is still there, like that. So, or you might just want to go and do something different. You broke a relationship, you go and have another relationship on the rebound, right? And you'll go through the same thing again. So Prahlad Maharaj says, Punar Punar Charvita Charvananam. You're doing the same thing again and again. You were disappointed by some set of scenario, and you're going to do the same thing in a slightly different scenario. You're going to get the disappointment again. So don't do that. And when I think of that and think of relationships, Henry VIII, Raghunath Prabhu, always comes to my mind. Henry VIII, do you know how many wives he had? He had 6 wives, yes. So these are the wives of Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon. You know, she lived with him for the longest time, about 24 years. And fate of the marriage, annulled, divorced, right? Cancelled. Anne Boleyn, how was the marriage ended? Beheaded. He cut off her head. Jane Seymour, she died. Anne of Cleves, annulled. Catherine Howard, beheaded. Catherine Parr, she survived the king. So, something to think about from Henry VIII's perspective. What is he doing? Punar Punar Charvita Charvananam. I think he should have stopped at the beheaded level, at Anne Boleyn, right? Things are so bad in the relationship that you have to kill her. Come on, put a stop to it there. Don't continue down that path again and again. Oh my God, he went to another behead, Catherine, right? And then even after that, he again goes and gets married there, like that. When I went to purchase my car at the Palo Alto Magnum, Toyota Magnum, I came across a very wonderful salesperson, very, very wonderful. And he said that I had, you know, like my husband, myself and Mukhavinda, we had all shopped around the whole day for it, and we were sick and tired of this, going from shop to shop, and buying a car is the last thing I wanted to do. Mine was broken, so I had to buy it. And so we just point blank went to him and said, okay, this is what others are quoting, and if you can come a little down, we'll buy it for you. So he said, okay, I have to go and ask my manager. So he went to ask his manager, and then he said, well, while you're online with the manager, what do you want me to do? I can put some music for you. So what music would you like? So we said, of course, give us the Hare Krishna, by George Harrison. He didn't know about it. So we said, okay, give us the keyboard, we will put it for you. And then we started playing the music, and you will not believe people from all corners of his office came and said, because this was Palo Alto. And so they know the Harinam, we do the Harinam, so some of them had watched it. So anyway, but that was not the focus of the story. He came back, he gave us the discount what we were asking for, but then we were asking things about, his life and things like that. And he said that he was married 5 times, and 5 divorces. He's paying money to all of them. And so he was having 3 or 4 jobs, So being disappointed again and again, doing the same thing again and again, why are you doing it? The good thing for his credit is that when he said that you're allowed to take your car for a drive, for a test drive, which we had done the whole morning with other companies, we had done all that. But when he said, do you want to take the car for a ride? We said, yes. So he said, I will have to sit with you in the car. We said, yes, because you don't know where we are going. We are coming here to the temple. So we brought him to the temple here, and guess what? Shivas Pandit Prabhu was teaching the Bhakti Shastri class here. So he came and we sat. When he took it, then I was sitting outside, we did the car puja. We hadn't even bought the car, but we said since the car is here in the temple, we might as well do the puja. So we did the puja. And when I came to get him, I said, okay, let me get him back. And I'm looking for him there. Maybe he's sitting on a bench, he's standing somewhere. He's sitting in the class on his mat over here. Yeah, like that. And then finally he got some halwa, and for a few weeks after that, I took some halwa for him, things like that. But punar charvata charvananam, so we should not be doing that. And you can get cheated in this, trying to fix and find solutions. There's a story of King Pururava in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was in love with Urvashi, who is a society girl. Nothing to be expected much out of that relationship. So of course she abandons him and runs away. And so he's disheartened, and he tries to search for her here, there, everywhere. And finally he finds her, and then she says, okay, if you pacify these Gandharvas, then I'll be able to come back to you. And so he does a lot, and prayers and things like that. And finally the Gandharva says, okay, fine, we will give you Urvashi. So they give him a girl. And he comes back and he realizes that she is not Urvashi. She is actually Agnisthali. So these kind of things will also happen to you. When you try to find material solutions to material problems, you can get cheated again. Of course, he then again did a lot of yagyas and things like that. Finally, he reaches the planet where Urvashi is living. So big deal, But the Bha and the Ma is going to come and hit him again, right? Mrityu. How long can you live with Urvashi? Even if she decides to live with you. Like that. So, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result every time. That is insanity. So that is what we should not be doing. You got into a material problem, you got into a material situation, and you're trying to do something material again to get out of it. Why are you expecting anything different is going to happen? The same thing is going to happen. You're using the same ingredients. The pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. Right? So what you have to do is, you have to do something different. Right? Like this. So the good news is that our Vedic literatures tell about you as the soul. They tell you that Anandamayo Bhyasat, that you are by nature happy. You have that happiness inside you. You just have to find it. You just have to reveal yourself. Find your true identity. Then all these material things won't even bother you. So there is no question. That's why Prabhupada is repeatedly saying that there is no question of any disappointment in life. No adjustments, like I said. Don't try to make any adjustments, material adjustments at all. Right? This is Prithu Maharaj's story. he was trying to do a Ashwamedha Yagya. And as he was coming there to the 99, he had done 99 Ashwamedha Yagyas. And as soon as you do the 100th Ashwamedha Yagya, you become entitled to become Indra, right? So obviously when he's doing all that, who is getting worried? Indra, right? So Indra comes and steals away the horse, right? And Indra does all kinds of things to steal the horse away. And he gets thwarted. Till Prithu Maharaj now wants to go and kill Indra with his own hands, which is not the right thing. And then, there is intervention. Brahma tells him. So at certain points in time, Brahma actually tells you that, just stay happy with the 99 that you have. Don't go for the 100. Sometimes you will be stopped by providence by going to the 100th. You will be stopped, right? You will be almost close to the goal. You might have some goal that you put in your head from somewhere, and just a little short of that goal, you will be stopped. And when things like that happen, you take them as providential arrangement. These are arrangements of the Lord. And when there are arrangements of the Lord happening in your life, don't try to adjust them materially. You will fall down even further. Why? Because earlier you were fighting Maya. She was doing something to you, and you were fighting back by doing a little twist here, a little twist there, and you were fighting her. But when providential arrangements are being done, it is not Maya, it is God. Krishna is doing it to you, and now you're trying to do adjustment, you're trying to take him on. So that's not going to help you at all. So, material adjustments not to be done. And Prithu Maharaj agreed, he listened. He did not go any further, he did 99. Now today, millions of years later, who is being glorified? Indra or Prithu? Right? So it's Prithu Maharaj, for sure. So Krishna says to Arjuna in the 9th chapter, and we'll all do it together, because I'm getting tired of this monologue. Come on. Amudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam najananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. And I need a volunteer who's going to read that for me, please, on the microphone. Go ahead, Apara Gaurangi Mataji. Thank you.
Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be.
Right, so that is a problem. So we see Krishna, and because we are foolish, we don't even realize that he is Krishna. Okay? We don't know about his transcendental nature. We think him to be material. Okay, let's continue with the next verse. What happens? Moghasha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasaha rakshashim masurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. One more volunteer for the translation. Anybody? If you look at me, you will be volunteered. If you smile. You want to volunteer? Go ahead. You looked at me. Go ahead, Lekha.
Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated.
So 3 things, right? Hopes for liberation. Liberation is that somehow you figured out that after this class, no, I'm just kidding, that this material world is bad, and I somehow need to get out of this Ferris wheel where I'm constantly going up and down, up and down. So figure it out, so you want liberation. So I had hopes of liberation, expectations of liberation. So that is gone. Or if I was not at that level, I was still trying to make some good out of this material world. So I had some fruitive activities, some things I was trying to do with the focus on the results of that. So fruitive activities, right? Or I just wanted to, I knew not to dabble with this, but I wanted to acquire jnana, acquire knowledge. So I want to do all that. So all 3 are defeated if you don't believe in Krishna, like that. So it is big time disappointment for all of us, right? So you have to change. You have to change the approach, okay? Take Krishna's plan. Stop planning on your own. Take what Krishna has the plan. So Prabhupada says we are teaching that you take Krishna's plan and you'll be happy. Don't make your own plan. You'll never be happy. This is Krishna consciousness. When you align yourself with Krishna's plan, or actually when you surrender to Krishna's plan, it requires surrender. Because when the disappointment comes because you wanted something which was not in Krishna's plan, and you don't like it. We have not yet surrendered to Krishna's plan, that's why the disappointment is coming. So he said that. there. Krishna's plan, going back again to Anga, who was disappointed because his yagya could not be completed. He was disappointed that he did not have a son. He was disappointed that finally he had a son, but then he was disappointed because the son was bad. Right? But then Krishna had something else in plan. Because this bad son was finally killed by the Brahmanas, by the Brahmanical, by the sheer mind power. And then there's no king. We need heir to the throne. So what the Brahmanas then did was they churned this Vena's body, and from this body the Supreme Personality of Godhead actually comes out in the form of Prithu. So there was this whole plan. God had his whole plan there, right? So no need to be disappointed. And actually, Anga does some very nice philosophizing in that chapter in Bhagavatam. He says that, well, you know what? If my son was very good, I would have been attached to him. And it would have been very difficult for me to pursue devotional service. Then he says, okay, I think it's actually good that I was given a bad son. And then ultimately he leaves everything, goes into the forest to pursue the devotional service. So that was what Krishna's plan was, and he took it. Chaturvarna Mayashrishtam, and the varnas, the ashrams are all created for us. So when it's time for you to go to a particular ashram, just go there. So we must stick firmly to the chanting of the holy names, he says to Suchandra again, and following the rules. This will keep us from being tricked by Maya. But there is no question of disappointment for some temporarily bewilderment. Again he's saying that all these things are temporary in the scheme of things, that we have got millions of lives in this material world, and we have been disappointed, believe me, in all the lives that we had previously. And it is in that comparison of the millions of lives that we had, whenever you get some distress or something doesn't happen according to what you wanted, then it's just a very small, it's just a temporary bewilderment. That's what Prabhupada is saying. So don't take that too much to heart. There's no question of being disappointed. But he's saying you take to the chanting of the holy name, because in this Kali Yuga, only the chanting of the holy name can deliver you. So let's do that here together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And let's see what happens to the other disappointments that we talked about from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasdeva was disappointed that after writing so much and doing so much of documentation, then still he was feeling bad in his heart, right? So he was asking for, give me the root cause of my dissatisfaction. That is what he asked his spiritual master Narad Muni. And the Narad Muni said that you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. So what Vyasdev had done was he had focused more on the Karmakandi aspects of the Vedas, and his from goodness of heart, he was just trying to make life easy for people in this material world. But life in this material world can never be easy from the Papa Baba that we just learned, right? And in the end, that is an equalizer for everything. So he's saying that you have not talked about the personality of Godhead. He said, so then he said that everything is good for you. You are a good person. But you think of the pastimes of Lord, go into a trance, think of the pastimes of the Lord, right? And learn how people can get out of material bondage. And that's exactly what Vyasdeva did. And then he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Amal Puran for our. So then he told him that whatever you desire to describe that is separate from the vision of the Lord simply reacts with different forms and names to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Okay. So this was not just for Vyasdeva, this is actually for us as well. Right? So whenever you try to do something, you try to dabble too much into material world and try to do things which are separate from Krishna, not bringing Krishna consciousness into it, then your mind will definitely be agitated, because you have your senses. Right? Your senses interact, and then your mind goes after it, and then your intelligence is lost, and you fall into the material world. Bhagavad Gita tells you that, right? So that's what is going to happen to us. Sati's approach, right? So Vyasdeva, good. We got Srimad Bhagavatam, we got a good result of it. Sati's approach, she was disappointed. She had disappointment. But did she take to Krishna consciousness? Who did she meditate on when she was giving up her body? Where did she go? She went back to live with Shiva, right? So that's the subtle difference that you have to keep in mind. Who are you concentrating on? Right? Dhruva Maharaj's approach, right? Dhruva Maharaj was disappointed, right, from his stepmother's bad words and bad behavior. So the Narad gave instructions to Dhruv Maharaj. He said, okay, you're a small child, doesn't matter, your mom said something like that, forget it. And then if you think you're an adult, then just understand the fact that, your mom is not the king's favorite. Live with it. Like that, he told. But then Dhruv Maharaj said that, all those things are for Brahmins, I can't do any of that. I am a Kshatriya, I want revenge. So then Narad Muni gave him instructions on how to chant the mantra. He gave him a 12-syllable mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He gave him that. And then Dhruv Maharaj actually went and did a lot of penance. 5-year-old Dhruva tolerated a lot of things there, right? For the first month, what he did was he ate only fruits and berries. A small child, he does that, right? In the second month, he ate only every 6, and that was, he was eating only once in 3 days. In the second month, he ate only once every 6 days, and he ate only leaves. So you can imagine how bitter and how bad the taste is. In the third month, he drank only water. And then in the fourth month, he became a complete master of the breathing exercise. So, he was able to control his breathing. It started affecting the other people as well. And then he had controlled all his senses by the 5th month, so that he was able to stand on one leg. And then finally, in the 6 months, he sees God. God comes to meet him. And then, as I mentioned, he gets disappointed again because he's thinking, why did I ask for such a bad thing like something material? I should have just asked to go back to Godhead. And then he also feels bad that he did not listen to the instructions of his spiritual master the first time he told him to go back to the palace, so he should have done that. But then, Lord being magnanimous, he says that you will come back to Godhead in the end, but you will first rule for 36,000 years, and I will then finally bring you to a Dhruv planet which will not be annihilated when this universe is annihilated. So he does get that as well. But he had faith in the Lord, he took to God, and he prayed to God, did severe austerities, and ultimately he did go back to Godhead. And not only did he go back to Godhead, his mother also, the Suniti, the good mother, also goes back with him. Bharat Maharaj's approach was also he realizes that he should not have steered himself away from the Lord and towards a little deer. And so in the next life, he gives up the body, doesn't live for a long time in the body of a deer, and then takes birth again as a human being as Jar Bharat. It doesn't have anything to do with people, gives a wonderful lecture to King Rahuguna like that. So again, he takes to Krishna there. King Anga's approach, right? King Anga, who had the bad son Veena. So King Anga's approach was he severed the tie of attachment to his son. Right? He just severed the tie. He said, good for me, I've got a bad son. Good for me, because it'll be easy for me to go to the forest now. Right? So these are not things that we are reading in Srimad Bhagavatam that king did it, and it was for, this is for Anga to do. Well, we all have our Angas, and we have our Venas, and we have our deers, and we have our Dakshas, and so on and so forth. So for all of us, these stories are actually giving us some insight into how we should be handling our own life's disappointments that if and when they come up. Churning of the ocean, there were so many disappointments during the churning of the ocean. We had poison, Lakshmi goes off to somebody else, there is nectar when it comes, goes on to somebody else, like that. The gopis were disappointed, Krishna was going away, like that. Then of course gopis' disappointment with Brahma's engineering skills, and so on and so forth. So we have to keep in mind that when we get disappointments like that in life, when we're trying to do something, either get something or make a change to something, we also have to understand that there is something known as a circle of concern, and there is a circle of influence. Right? Now, so if I now start to behave like a gopi and say like, oh, my eyes are blinking and I can't see Radha Madan Mohan there, oh, how bad this is. It's not going to help me at all, because I don't have a choice. I can't influence it. I am a prisoner in this body. If I've got a body which has got eyes and the eyes blink, and if I'm in this universe where Brahma made me like that, then that's it. The only thing that you can do is you can have an exit plan. You can have a plan to get out of this, but then, just go and bear it. It's outside of your circle of influence. Don't try to touch it, because you will again face some more disappointments in life. Try to do that. Never abandon Krishna in your disappointments. Actually, Krishna is the only one who can help you in your disappointment. So ever disappointed in life, take to Krishna wholeheartedly. Pray to Krishna wholeheartedly, and he will help you. Krishna will help you for sure, like that, right? So gopis were so completely in love with Krishna without any selfish motive that even in their great disappointment, they never considered giving their love. I mean, when you look at some of the things that Krishna did to the gopis, right? Right in the middle of the dance, abandoning them, going out and hiding, things like that. Any modern day girl would have just dumped him. Right? They didn't do that. They would just suffer and suffer. And look at Radha, when you hear Radha talking to the bumblebee, the Bhramar Geet in Srimad Bhagavatam, you look at how intense that love is and how deep that love is, that they have reached that stage that they're willing to suffer. And true love actually is that you are willing to suffer. True love is not just holding hands and hugging like that. True love is that when you're willing to suffer because of somebody else, right? And since we don't know who that somebody else might be, it is a safe thing to repose your love in Krishna, because he will reciprocate nicely with you, right? Before you start getting ideas that you want to suffer for love here in this material world. Lord Brahma says to Krishna, and this is also a very nice verse to help you with the disappointments that you face in life, and we'll all do this together again. Tattenukampam susamikshamaну bhunjananevatmakritam vipakam hidvagvapubhir vidadam namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Okay, now what am I going to say next? Anybody wants to guess? You have to speak it on the microphone. Any guesses?
You need a volunteer.
I need a volunteer. There you go. To read this translation.
My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim.
Rightful claim. Thank you so much, Apara Gaurangi Mataji. So this is what happens, like a churning of the ocean, right? So we all have lots of oceans that we churn, and there will be disappointments coming all along the way. So when these disappointments come, then you should just wait for his mercy. If you wait for his mercy, it'll come. And when bad things happen with you, rather than blaming the other personalities around you, you come and you say that it is happening actually because of my own deeds. I have done something, and that is why now it's all coming back to me. It's being all leveled up for me, and which is a good thing. Because now all that was karma that was lying in store for you is now being exhausted. So when bad things happen, devotees are happy. Okay, now it's gone, it's done, taken care of. And you have to be just patient along the time. And so just don't be neutral. Okay, I'm groaning, I'm bearing it, I'm cornered, I did it. But then you have to be positive also. You have to use your mind and your body and your words to sing the glories of the Lord. Right? And if you are able to do that, what is Brahma saying? Brahma is saying that becomes the liberation, actually getting out of this mess, actually becomes your rightful claim. And Prabhupada says that just as a son of a rich man doesn't have to do anything to inherit the property than to stay alive. Right? Similarly here also, all that you have to do is wait earnestly while you're chanting the glories of the Lord, and at the back of your mind remember that whatever happens to us is because of us, our doings. We are the responsible parties. We have to take ownership of all that happens to us. Right? And that will help you handle the disappointment. And there is hope for us. Prabhupada says that again in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Hansa Avatar is asking some questions there. So he says that this mind, right? Have anyone of you been troubled by your mind ever? Raise your hands. Okay, quite a few. Good. I'm not alone. So the mind is created from the mode of goodness. So there are three modes. So this came as a rude shock to me to know that mind is created from the mode of goodness. I thought mind came from the mode of passion or ignorance. So if it is created from goodness, this means it is good. But all these bad thoughts that are coming are actually samskaras or etchings in the mind, and those etchings in the mind can be dissolved by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? And then the hope for us, it says that Sankhya philosophy is saying that the natural and peaceful situation of the mind is pure love of Krishna. So that is the natural situation of the mind. It's natural, it's there. All that you have to do is unearth it, right? Remove the curtain. And at that stage, when you do that, when you reach the peaceful state of mind, there will be no mental disturbance, there won't be any disappointment. I was looking for this word, so we got it there, or any confusion. Right? Artificially, because of the false ego, the mind is dragged to a lower platform in passion or ignorance, and thus one is never satisfied. Okay? So handling disappointments, some of the steps that we can keep in mind, going through all that is mentioned in the Bhagavatam or what Prabhupada has said over, they can boil down into, you reach out to the wise. When you are facing some problems, you're facing some disappointments, don't try to handle it on your own. Reach out to the wise people around you. If there are no wise people around you, you pray to Krishna to get one, and you will get one for sure. And prayer actually is always a constant factor here. When you're facing disappointments, Hidvag Vapabur Vidadhan Namaste. Keep on praying to Krishna. Take refuge of the scriptures. When you go to the scriptures and you read about all those disappointments, like I did a whole narration of 1 hour of disappointments to all of you, served disappointment to you the whole afternoon today. So then it makes you feel a little better. Right? It'll make you feel, all right, fine, his son died, mine is still alive, like that. Right? So it makes it a little easy for you to handle the disappointments there. Tolerate. Keeping in mind that whatever is happening to you is part of Krishna's plan for you. Right? Fight the mind. So when you're doing all these good things, your mind is going to come and is going to fight with you. It will always do that. And it will come and tell you, oh, you know what, Krishna consciousness is very difficult. So even if it's a small problem, your mind will magnify it and make it and present it to you as if it is such a big problem that you just can't handle it at all. Right? So be wary that your mind is the mind which is covered is your biggest enemy. But because we read right now that mind is also your best of your friends, that it will help you. Right? All that we need to do is to purify the mind. But as long as it is not purified, this enemy is actually situated in a very, very strategic position. Right? Because if you were to talk about enemy, like take any country that attacks you. Like when I was young, Pakistan had attacked India. And I lived very close to the Taj Mahal, so there were talks that they will come and bomb Taj Mahal. And so I was a child, I used to be scared that I will die in the night when they will come and throw the bomb. And so there was this fear that the Pakistanis are going to come from the border into, Agra, and they're going to put the bomb there. So the enemy was coming from outside, right? But here, where is the enemy? It is inside you. The enemy is inside you. Very, very strategically positioned. It's like a spy. Right? The spy comes and infiltrates into your army. Right? How Mrs. Indira Gandhi was killed, the Prime Minister of India, she was killed by her own bodyguards. Right? So it happens so many times in the history. So fight the mind is your biggest enemy, and then surrender to Krishna. Okay? Now, I also wanted, before you all felt so bad and miserable from this miserable talk that I gave on disappointment in life, I also wanted to let you know that there is disappointment is also expressed as is an expression of your love for Krishna. So there's nectar of devotion, and you'll find various ways and various situations where there is disappointment. Okay, and in that disappointment, one becomes full of anxiety. They will be crying. They will be changing body colors. They'll feel they'll breathe heavily. They'll feel humility and things like that. So, do you know of anybody who shed tears because of separation from Krishna? Come on, go ahead, Manisha. Into the microphone. Otherwise, no marks for you. Anybody who shed tears? Hold it closer.
Shed tears for Krishna, or in general?
You can give me any answer.
Shedding tears when there's a small problem, or something. and then you start to remember Krishna because he put you in that position.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, you have a small problem, and then you start crying, and you start crying out for Krishna to help you solve the problem. Very good. Anybody else other than Monisha who cries, or you know who cries? Very, very famous, crying from separation. Who used to cry from separation a lot, so that the Bhagavatam was soaked in tears? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, exactly, yes, yeah, right? And the gopis used to cry, and Radha cries, and so on and so forth, right? So people go and do these kind of things. Gadadhar Pandit, yes, please take the microphone and please enlighten us.
Gadadhar Pandit, he had a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam that he would read to Lord Chaitanya in Tori Gopinath temple, and the pages would become so wet with his tears that it became illegible, because he was reading it and crying all the time.
Yeah. So people feel so much of separation from Krishna then. So some of the disappointing sentences that are there that come across is when Nand Maharaja is talking to Yashoda Mai, and this is the time when the Kaliya pastime is happening, and Krishna has gone into the waters, and he falls into the Ganges at that time, and people are thinking now he's gone, now he's dead. So so he says, my dear wife, Krishna has gone deep into the water, so there is no longer any need to maintain our bodies, which are so full of sinful activities. Let us also enter into the poisonous water of Yamuna and compensate for the sinful activities of life. So this is where, he's so disappointed with the fact that he's lost Krishna, that he's willing to give up his body as well. Right? So that he's now separated from Krishna. Then Subala, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan and goes away, then his friend Subala is saying that he's feeling separation. And he says that, without Krishna, there's no point in living in Vrindavan. There's no good in living in Vrindavan. He says, and then he ultimately leaves Vrindavan as well. Srimati Radharani, she's actually telling her friend in separation from Krishna, she's saying that because I'm no longer able to hear glories of Krishna, it's better that I become deaf. And because I'm not able to see Krishna, it's better that I just go blind. So this is again an expression of disappointment that is coming from separation of Krishna. Then Satyabhama to Krishna. So it happened that Narad Muni had come to the palace where Krishna was living with his wives, and he had glorified Rukmini. So obviously Satyabhama is envious of that, right? So she goes to Krishna and says, my dear Krishna, since I heard Narad glorifying Rukmini before you, I can understand that there's no need of any talking about myself. So again, this is, she's disappointed that she was not praised. And out of envy and disappointment, she's speaking these sentences. But remember, these are transcendental mellows that we are talking about in this case. Right? And Prabhupada says actually that there is a proverb in Sanskrit that says, disappointment gives rise to the greatest satisfaction. And he explains there in a way that these cowherd boys, they used to play with Krishna all the time, right? Have lunch, play this, play games, go to the water, mimic animals, make things and kill demons, like that. So they used to do that, and one fine day they lost Krishna. And they start searching for Krishna all over the forest, and they don't find Krishna anywhere. So they're very, very disappointed, very, very disappointed. And while they are down in the depths of the disappointment, they hear a very faint sound of Krishna's flute. And then they become very ecstatic again. So sometimes, when you go down to the depths of being dissatisfied, you will be satisfied to a very higher level of degree later on in life. There. So with this, I will conclude. We talked today about what is disappointment. We took some stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. We talked about steps to prevent disappointments in the first place. And then if we are in a situation that we are disappointed, then we talked about steps to overcome disappointments. And then we also talked about some of the transcendental disappointments that you can have in life. So thank you so much for joining the call. in the room here, as well as those of you who are online. And my special thanks to Akunath Prabhu for enlightening us with your experiences and with your wise words here. And I think there's a question coming up from there. Please feel free to answer. We have a couple of minutes before we can do that. So any questions or any reflections?
Yes, Mataji, I have a couple of questions.
Please.
The first question is, as you said, how to avoid disappointment. Don't try the material problems. We can ignore the material problems so that we can avoid the disappointments. That's I understood. But in our real life, that is our karma. We have to do to our desires, to get the desires. We have to try. Most of the time we will see the failures. So as a failure attached with your disappointment, from there we will retry until get the desired success. And at most of the time we will do adjustments. That's what our karma. Even Krishna also doing the same thing. When the Bhagavatam, he loves Radha very much, and Radha loves Krishna very much. At point of time, his karma, he has to go to Mathura and kill the Kamsa, and he has to do Mahabharatam. So he left his mother and lover, everything. So, there is no way we can avoid the material things. So how to avoid the disappointment in the material problems?
Yeah. Good question. A slight comment first before I give the answer is that the concept of karma doesn't apply to Krishna. The concept of karma. So Krishna doesn't have any karma. So it was not Krishna's karma that he has to. This is Krishna's pastimes. So if Krishna has to go and kill Kamsa and things like that, it's Krishna's pastime. Just wanted to make that slight, clarity in the head, right? So now coming to us, we do have karma and we do suffer karma. And because of karma, you're saying that we will get disappointed, and you have just narrated the punar charvata charvanadam, the Ferris wheel, right? We keep on going through that, keep on having desires, and we keep on having disappointments, we go into the cycle. So you have to get out of that cycle, right? So how do you get out of that cycle, right? It's devotional service. Devotional service actually is the only thing that can burn your karma. In Brahma Samhita it says, karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti vajam asta indragopam. So it says that right from the small tiny insect known as Indragopa all the way up to Brahma, who is the most superior person in this universe, everybody is bound by karma, right? But if you do bhakti bhajam, if you do bhakti to Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, if you do bhakti to Krishna, that is the only thing that can dissolve your karma. And once your karma is, and that's what we all want, right? Once your karma is dissolved, and also when you start going into devotional service, and for this yuga, we start with chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, because what it does is your desires will also start going away. Why? Because as you keep on chanting, your taste for something transcendental, which is the holy name, will arise, it will grow, right? And to get rid of something, you can't live in void. So if you have desires, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to take all the desires, I'm going to throw them into the trash can, I'll be free of desire. Those desires have to be replaced with something better. So all your material desires, which lead to disappointment, have to be replaced with better transcendental desires. And again, when you get into devotional service, then you start getting transcendental desires. For example, I might have a desire to buy a beautiful sari for myself, which is purely a material desire, right? But as I start doing devotional service, I might say, no, I want to buy a better dress for the deities. So the desire is still there to purchase. And my hankering for doing shopping will get satisfied in both the cases, right? But in the first case, it was for me. If I don't get the sari that I really wanted, then there's disappointment, right? When I'm buying things for Krishna, the disappointment is less. Why? Because I'm doing it for Krishna, and I also at the back of my mind, even if I wanted to buy something for Radharani and I didn't get that color, I will take it as it was Krishna's will. It was Krishna's desire. It was Radharani wanted that color. Who am I to tell what color she should wear? Like that. And Akunath Prabhu, if you can add to that.
Yeah, it just reminds me, and the whole class reminds me, there was a professor at UCLA. He was a very popular professor. He was a Swiss national, I think, and he had gone to India, and somehow or another he got himself initiated into Mayavadi Sampradaya, and he was Professor Bharati. Yes. And he used to challenge the Hare Krishna devotees on the campus, and he ended up challenging Hridayananda Maharaj to a debate. Hridayananda Maharaj, this was 1974, something like that. Hridayananda Maharaj had only been a devotee for 4 or 5 years, something. But he expertly, this was a very popular professor, and he wasn't seriously, even though he got initiated as a Bharati, he wasn't like really following in regulative principles and the things. And he was playing up to the students, to the hippie students who wanted to enjoy material life. So he criticized, you Hare Krishnas, he told Hridayananda Maharaj, you're so pessimistic. You're always talking about how life is such a disappointment and you're morbid, we die and we don't, he says, I don't feel like that. I feel like life is full of enjoyment and that people can really enjoy. And then Hridayananda Maharaj said, no, actually we're great optimists, because if you think this material enjoyment, which is really full of disappointments, is the best we can do, that's very negative. And actually your own Mayavadi school teaches that to do better than that, we have to get out and become impersonal and merge and give up all variety and give up all endeavor for different kind of qualities, and you want to become qualityless. But we have a positive view that devotional service can bring an actual platform of eternal great happiness that never fades, never goes away, never decays, and so we're the real optimists, and everything else is pessimism.
There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we are running out of time. I can take, if it's a quick question. You had more questions, Bill? If I can take it quickly, I'll take it. Otherwise, offline, I'll take it offline with you. Go ahead, but still ask the question, please.
My only question here is, I'm not saying that a high-level desire, as you were given example. So buying the saree for need is a different. Buying quality and model saree is different.
Yes.
Both the time you are purchasing, but one time you really need, and one time that is you may or may not, but you are interested to purchase it. But in your need to get the need, you will get the failures. For that we will come to disappointment.
Yes.
How we will override? How will we overcome? That's my question.
Philosophically, you will do that, right? Philosophically, you will do that. See, our disappointments are coming, number one, because we are constantly looking at the result. Even if it was something, a shirt that you want to buy, because you have to go to office to buy the shirt, right? It's a necessity for you, right? So if you're just saying it's a necessity, I just need something which has buttons, has got sleeves, color doesn't matter, you will never be disappointed. And money also, this much range I will buy, you'll never be disappointed. But somewhere sulking, because of millions of years of birth and millions of years of desires that we have, we still have the desire that, maybe this shirt should be whiter than anybody else's shirt or better quality.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
You were already quoting the verse, Tatenu Kampam Sushimik Shimano, that we can accept that because of our karma we have to suffer some disappointments, but if we can go on serving Krishna while accepting this as Krishna's mercy, that we got even less distress than we deserved, then we can become liberated. And you were also quoting the instructions that Narada Muni gave to Vyasadeva. Srila Prabhupada used to quote one of those verses from the 5th chapter of 1st canto. It goes, Tasyaiva hetok prayate te kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyada talabhyate dukkha vadanyatak sukham kalina sarvatra gabhira ranghasa. So he's telling, because Vyasadeva gave all these scriptures to tell how to do all these fruitive activities to get material happiness and to atone for sins so that we don't get distress. And Narada Muni is saying, but you haven't told the important thing yet. In fact, you've encouraged people to be religious in order to enjoy material happiness, and then they won't even take up devotional service when they get an opportunity. So he said that if you're actually intelligent and philosophically inclined, you'll only go for devotional service, the highest thing. And he said that as far as your material happiness is concerned, you're going to get that automatically. You'll get some happiness and you'll get some distress because of your past karma. He said, just like nobody tries to go out and get distress, but they get it anyway. You're getting it anyway. Similarly, you're getting material happiness anyway. You should go on doing your duty. Don't stop. But don't think that you're the cause. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, te karmostuka,
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu.
No, it says, karmanye varikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palaheto bor. Don't think that you're the cause of your, the fruits of your karma, because actually these things are coming from the past anyway, and what you should focus on is to do devotional service, and that will get you out of the, break you out of the cycle, get out of the traffic jam, get away from the disappointments that are coming like waves automatically. So when you chant Hare Krishna, go on doing your duty, but you get some money, you'll lose some money, you'll get some health, you'll get some sickness. These things happen to everyone because you have already got a material body that's destined for those things. So what you have to do is become detached from that bodily concept of life and know your real spiritual life, which is that you're a servant of Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm sorry it's too late. I apologize. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining, those in the classroom as well as those online. Vanchukalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
So can you put the question on the site, please?